All right, so hi everybody. So welcome back to Introduction to Web Development with Python and JavaScript. So let's first start by talking about the homework for the last week, which is to use some API and to create some basic website. Don't worry if you don't do it, but if you did do it and you want to share it, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute your mic to share your website, and it's kind of like a show and tell thing. Okay, something wrong with my visual. I have the freaking background. Let me double check on that. Let's see. Yeah, this looks really weird. Does anybody do their homework for last week, which is like basically using some APIs to create some websites?
I partly did it, but then I got a little confused, so I stopped at a point.
Okay, so do you want to share your project, Vera?
Okay, sure. Let me share it real quick.
All right.
I think you disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me go ahead and do this. All right, could you share now?
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Wait, I have a question for the title. For the title of the website, how do you change the size?
How do you change the size? I would talk about that. Basically, just use h1 tag. Essentially, basically, that's what you do. h1 tag. That's HTML to make it bigger or smaller, basically.
Okay, so I'm screen sharing right now my REPL.
Okay.
And for some reason, this part right here, can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
This part right here is not showing the picture.
It's not showing the picture.
No.
It's supposed to be, but I don't know why. Could you click the link and probably can take a look? Is there an image there?
Yeah, this is how it looks like.
Could you click on the link itself?
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the image that you attach, you didn't actually download the image and upload to Replit. You didn't do that. You need to download the image as well, so you can see it's not found, basically. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that solves my problem. So I'll just try that out. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
All right. Okay. Nice. So does anyone else want to share share your own project?
I'll do it.
All right.
Wait, I have a question. Is it okay if I can use Atom for this?
You mean is Adam you're referring to the code editor?
Yes, the code editor.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Where is it? Oh, yay. For some reason.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Okay. Lies of life. Okay. Where did you find out these images?
I downloaded them.
Okay.
I
Okay.
downloaded them.
All right. Okay.
Yep, stop sharing.
Okay. Have you learned HTML before, Kessler?
Can you
Have you
repeat that?
Okay. Have you learned HTML before?
No.
No. Okay. It's pretty nice. Seems you like just attend like a last week class, then didn't have time to talk about like HTML, but you can pick up your own. That's pretty good. Nice job. How about anybody else? Do they want to share their own project?
I have a website.
Yeah, sure. Henry, go for it.
I mean, it's not that big, but
It's fine. It's fine. Just share it. We want to.
excuse me.
Ooh, nice. Nice. I love your moon picture. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. I love your moon picture and your tomato tag. That's pretty cool. Anybody else?
Yes, I can't find the thing though.
Okay. So did you store it on Replit?
Yeah, it's on a Replit, but I have like a bunch of random Replit.
Okay, so probably can find it if you possible, and then if you can, don't worry if you can't. I'm actually going to share one as well after I get this set up. Let's see. So it's so let's see this. C/create room. Okay, so let me go share my screen as well. Okay, how about this, Jeffrey? Could you share your first? I think you sent your link there. Do you mind you just share screen this? I see you send a link. If you guys want to, you guys can do a screen share if you want to, or I can just open a link for you guys.
Do I have the screen share? Do I have to screen share?
Well, because if you don't screen share that, I will screen share it.
Yeah, can you screen share it?
What? Okay. Okay. So here is I think this is what's your name again? Oh, I forgot. Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey's project. Cat. Whoa. Let's see another cat picture. Let's see. This is nicely done. Nicely done. Nice. Where did you get the cat picture?
It's like a cat API thing.
Okay, nice.
So this is just a PDF of cat pictures.
Yeah, it's a color show of chat picture. I love how your button style were pretty nice. Probably can add a line break between the button and the image. That's probably going to look a little bit nicer. And then if you want to, you can also add some background color as well. And by the way, probably just going to like remain my camera closed for this entire session because like sometimes my virtual background is not working. I don't know how to cancel that, so I'm going to try to figure out during the break.
I found the thing.
All right. Do you want to screen share it, Kyle? Are you Kyle?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to screen share this?
It's just like it prints the links for pictures and stuff. On the
Okay. So do you want to try it out? Do you want to see it? Can we see it? Do you want to screen share it?
I'm gonna share the screen. It's this.
Okay. I see the fetch right there. Let's see. Okay.
It prints 3. You can choose how many. You can choose how many photos it prints and how many links it prints.
Okay. So is the image actually associated with the image at the top? Yeah, I think it is, right?
Yeah, this is this. I'm pretty sure these are these.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Could you choose like a different date or something?
You can choose how many. You can choose like how many. How long it goes to. Like if I change this one to like a big number like 4,
Okay.
there'll be more stuff. Now there's like 4 images.
Oh, nice. This is nicely done. So you probably use some loop or something. All right, that looks really good. Nice job. All right, good job, everybody. So does anyone else want to share? Does anyone else want to share anything they probably have? Okay. Then I'm going to share mine. And then this is one of the projects still working on. So I'm not going to promise it actually 100% works. I hope it works. So let me go ahead and screenshot that as well. So it's this. So essentially what this is a live chatting web app. It's similar to Discord. And then this is basically, it means that you can set message without refreshing. Since there's only one person in the room, I can just say hello. and then you can see, I see the message instantly without refreshing. And then, so if you guys want to join this room as well, first what you can do is visit this URL here. And it's a little bit complicated since my UI UX design is not that good. And then you guys will actually learn how to implement that as well. So this is, let me share the link as well. So, oops. So this is the URL that you should see. And then you could like log in, you could register for an account. You can use fake email address if you want to. I'm not gonna spam you. And then you can log in later. And then here, ignore this, you can just go here. And then you can click on this demo. Basically, you can search for a public room if you want to. The public room is called demo. And then you can join this room and then you can chat if you want to. And then we'll talk about, so we'll actually go ahead and implement this for the future projects. This is one of the most interesting projects that you're actually going to implement on this class. It's called, we're going to use something called socket, WebSocket to make it looks nice. And then look, we got a user here. You can see it live update. It's a welcome, somebody's here. And you can see there's new persons here. And then I don't know who this person is. Hi. As you can see, if you're joining, you can see we're actually seeing your comments at live. Hi, Jeffrey. You can see we can actually see it. You cannot access it. I don't know. Probably you need the account because Jeffrey can access it. But we'll talk more about these when we actually implement the project itself. So we'll talk about socket when we get to there, which is pretty close. It's like we're going to implement this probably somewhere next week or something. All right, so this is my project. And then it's really good to see all of you guys creative project, an interesting project. But now what we will go ahead and start is let's go ahead and talk about Python. And again, I'm sorry that I cannot turn my webcam on because virtual background is not working. My eye is like an image within it. It looks really creepy, so I'm just not going to share it. And again, so from today, I'm going to change a little bit. So instead of using, you guys can still using Replit if you want to. You can't access it. That's weird.
We have to sign up. Even if we do sign up, it just kicks us out.
That's probably a bug I need to fix eventually. But if you want to, you probably go to the
Like,
homepage
go
again.
back, and then you press login and you log in.
It really doesn't make sense, but it's at the top if you guys want to try it out. But basically, this is like a web app that we're actually going to implement. If you guys want to chat there, you can. The design.
Why can't you use Replit?
The reason I do use Replit because the Replit going to the URL, the link, so the web page we're doing right now is static web page. So basically, it didn't have the backend, but for the app that do have the backend, once you close the Replit tab on your browser, it will close the connection as well. That means you cannot access it. And then this app is hosted on Heroku. It's basically mean like once there's connection, it's going to constantly serve it. And then we see Nerdy Barrel there. Nerdy Barrel, probably that's someone there. Or not.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What is the public room name?
Demo.
Demo?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All low caps?
No, just lowercase.
Okay.
Yeah, see more people here. We can see Skadoodle, Nerdy Barrel there, stuff like that. So this is something we'll go ahead and have a chance to implement. But now what we'll talk about is, so for the future class, what we'll talk about is actually focus on more Python before we reach here. So we'll actually create like 3 projects. We'll create a URL shortener, so shorten URL. We'll also create this Discord clone. We'll as well as create an Algo Expert clone, which is we will talk about that when we get to there. So then in the future, you will have opportunity to use 2 different frameworks, Flask and Django, and then you will have opportunity to learn cloud technology such as GitHub and Heroku as well. But now let's go ahead and focus on what we're going to do today, and let's talk about Python. All right, so Python, how about this? I'm just going to do a quick survey. How many people know Python before? Raise your hand if you know Python. So I just want to get a brief know how many people know Python.
What app are you using?
What app? So the software that's so you can still using Replit. You can just create a Python Replit. You don't have to download anything. The reason I'm using this is sometimes when I use Zoom, it's not, my computer is really laggy. So I would like prefer a external software instead. But you guys can type Replit. You can use Replit as well. It's not going to change anything for now. All right, so I see Vera, Kyle, and Samuel know Python before. Anybody else know Python? Anybody else? Okay. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but okay. Another person know Python. Okay. Nice. So how many people? So Python is another programming language. So you guys can lower your hands now if you want to. So Python. So it seems that not everybody heard of know Python before, but Python is not a snake in this case. Python is another programming language, and as just like JavaScript, the programming language is dynamically typed, which means it didn't have type. So does anyone come from like a type language such like a C++ or Java before? If you guys come from that before, then you guys probably going to know that we didn't declare type when we declare variable. So like we can switch variables. So in Java, you cannot do something like this. So if it's a string, it have to keep as a string. And then you cannot change the string later to a number or something. But in Python and JavaScript, we can do that. So that's the magic of dynamically typed language. It's probably going to be good and bad in most circumstances, but it's really good for beginner to get started with.
What's the app you're using? Like the thing you're using right now?
I keep forgetting when I'm okay. Yeah, it's called Visual Studio Code. If I keep starting, I keep forgetting to actually see the software name. It's called Visual Studio Code. Yes, sorry about that. It's called Visual Studio Code. You can find it. I'm going to send the website there if you want to download it. I think this should be the website. code.visualstudio.com. You can take a look. And then as Kessler mentioned before, he has Atom installed. You can use Atom as well, or you can use other code editor, such as Sublime Text. But
what about PyCharm?
PyCharm, yeah, PyCharm is another good Python IDE, to be more specific. It's a good Python IDE, but these are more like a general purpose, not focused on Python, but it's a language as well. All right, so first of all, we're going to start is, let me go and create a terminal here. So for the people who are still using Replit, you can ignore this part, but for people who are actually using a external code editor, you should be able to create a terminal. If you're using Visual Studio Code, you could create a terminal by just like, I think you should have a terminal tab at the top that you can create. And then what is a terminal? It's basically like a JavaScript console where you can actually execute and run Python code, basically. And then let's start by writing our first line of Python code. And then, as always, we'll go ahead and start with hello world. All right, so hello world. And then, so I don't recommend you to actually like download all the software, because you actually need to download Python itself as well. But if you're in MacBook, it should like Python 2 should automatically comes. But I'm also going to use some Python 3 syntax. So still I recommend you to using Replit instead of this external coding editor. The reason I'm using it again is because it's load faster. And then, so yeah, that's the only purpose why I'm using it instead of Replit.
Hello?
But assume you have Python installed, you can usually type Python 3 or just Python, then your file name. And then you can see, you should see output here says hello world. Okay, so that's like the most basic syntax of Python. This is the first line of Python. Basic. Yes, Casper?
Can I add something?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could also use terminal. Could you use terminal?
Yeah, this is called terminal actually.
Does Python 3.7 work?
Yeah. Anything above, try to install anything above 3.6. There's a specific feature I want to using that's only introducing 3.6.
Is 3.7 the newest?
I think 3.8 is probably the newest.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys want to set up as well, can go to like python.org. Whoops. Python.org to install Python. If you want to take a look at that, but it's a little bit complicated. And then you must add to shell. So still recommend choose the Replit. But I'm using this because it's load pretty fast. All right, so this is the first line of Python. Does anyone have any questions? What's that? Okay, so let's do a comparison. And then, by the way, to comment in Python, you're going to use the hashtag. So hashtag is located at above key 3, so you can type shift 3 to get the hashtag, and then you can write comments there. And in here, I just want to go ahead and compare what we typed. So this is Python, and this is JavaScript. So you can see these two are kind of similar, kind of different. You can see they all have a parenthesis, and the parenthesis, they have like a string inside of it. But you can see a different is actually the function name. So we have a console here. But got a print statement here. We got a print instead of a console.log. The rest of the stuff is same basically. And that's how you can like create an output in Python. You can use print. It doesn't work for me. So Kate, what didn't work for you? Sorry for not chatting chat really often enough. Do you have any issue, Kate? If you have any issue, just use the Replit instead. It's pretty hard to get started. If you guys had any question, feel free to just interrupt me and then I can. Okay, no problem. All right, so now you can see we got this hello world, and then you can see statement on the left is a Python, statement on the right is JavaScript. Now let's go ahead and talk about some other basic stuff that we can do in Python. So so to define a variable, let's get started with defining a variable. To define a variable is even easier in Python. You literally just need to type the variable name, equal sign, and the value you want to assign to this variable too. You don't even need a keyword like a var, like const. You don't even need them. You just need a variable name. So for example, I can have a name here, and name is just going to be Jeffrey. I just basically, let's just choose that name. And then you can see this is, so now what we did is we create a variable called name, and then we assign it to Jeffrey. Okay, we assign it to Jeffrey. And then now if I try to print out the name instead, whoops. So now if I try to print out the name, what you can see is Jeffrey can print out. And then that's how we can deal with variables in Python. It's even easier than JavaScript. Okay, it's even easier than JavaScript. Okay. All right. So this is variable, and then let's talk about different type as well. So some variable types, some types in Python, despite just that it didn't have a type. Well, each variable kind of do have a type. So this is called a string. This is a number, or more specifically, it's an integer, or int for short. And this is a floating point number, or a decimal number. And then let's see, what else do we have? We have this. So does anyone remember what is this in JavaScript? Does anyone remember this? Remember this, a collection of values, so A, B, C. Does anyone remember this? What is this called in JavaScript? Or does anyone know what is this called in Python?
Is it like dictionary or something?
It's not exactly a dictionary. Although we will talk about dictionary, something's similar to dictionary, but not quite. Does anyone have other ideas what this is called in Python or JavaScript? You remember?
A list?
Yeah, it is called a list in Python, but in programming world, it's more generally referred to array. Array, so it's a way to like store all kinds of value. Lucas, so ask, how do you get into it? What do you mean by how do I get into it? Get into what?
Like the Python.
Oh, how do I get interested in, basically? What I'm interested in?
No, like, do you have to download it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you need to download it. And I set the link at the top. It's at python.org. Python.org. And then you need to, are you using MacBook or a PC? Lucas, are you using a MacBook or a PC?
PC.
PC, yeah, you need to download it. I don't think Python come with it. But still, I recommend you to just go Replit instead because it's much easier.
Okay.
So in case you never used Replit before, here's a link, Replit, and it's much easier. You just need to create something, and then you don't need to download anything. It's just a website. But yeah, you can see that's how we can define a name. This is called list or array. And this. So does anyone know what this is called? This? What is this called? Does anyone know what is this called in Python? What is this like data structure called? It's called dictionary. This is a dictionary. And we'll talk about why that called a dictionary. So Python's not really like a beginner friendly. You can see all this type. Like they are really like easy to understand, and then like what they call it's really easy to understand, and then once you know, you will see, oh, that exactly what it is. Is instead of array or object, that sounds really weird. Python name it really beginner friendly. So Python is for a beginner friendly language rather than like Java or C++. But yeah. So this is a dictionary, or it's called object in JavaScript. And yeah, so that's I think that's let's see. I think that's pretty much about it with types in Python. So we have a int, float, string, list, dictionary. That's a pretty common one, and then we will see more once we get to that. And then so we talked about variable assignment. Now let's go ahead and talk about conditional statements as well. So I'm going to go a little bit fast here, but I'm going to slow down when we talk about object-oriented programming, because object-oriented programming is really like the most fundamental concept as well. So Python is another object-oriented programming language. Turns out just like JavaScript. So we'll talk about that as well. But for now, we'll go ahead and let's talk about conditional statements. So I will use the car example again. let me go ahead and create a thing called age, create a variable, excuse me, equals 15. And then in here, I want to go ahead and construct a conditional statement. So to construct a condition, so does anyone remember what this conditional statement is?
Like a if statement.
Yeah, it is an if statement. So basically, conditional statement means that if a circumstances, or if a condition is matches, then, or if a condition is true, do something. We're optionally can add an else, which means otherwise, if the condition above is not true, well, all the conditions above not true, just execute this. Or you can add else if as well. And then this basically is between if and else. And then it's if the first condition didn't get executed, then go ahead execute the condition below it, essentially. So this is age. And then here I can say something like this. If age is greater than 18, and then you can say print, you can drive a car without parental permission. And then in here, if we go ahead and run Python intro.py again. Whoops, wait, oh shoot. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm worried about. Okay, it's actually using colon. Sorry about that. So it's colon, it's not curly braces. It's really hard like to teach Python and JavaScript, despite they are similar, but their syntax is different. But it's something like this. So you can say, I don't think you even need parentheses actually. So you can say something like this. If age is greater than 18, then you can add colon, and then you must indent this line. So I don't care how much you indent. I don't care if you press the tab key or press spacebar, you need to indent. Because if you type something like this, it's going to give you an error. As you can see, this red squiggly line under print, you must indent this. And that way, the Python interpreter knows that's okay, you want to execute with this line, essentially. And then you can say, you can see print, you can drive a car without parental permission. And we don't need semicolon there. All right, so if we go ahead and run this, what we see is absolutely nothing. It's because 15 is not greater than 18, thus everything here won't get executed, won't get run. So we don't see anything else get printed out. All right, so that's Python conditional statement part 1. Okay, so now let's talk about part 2. What if you want to print out something if they cannot drive a car without parental permission? Well, then you can use the else keyword, which means is all conditions above is not true, then go ahead and execute else. So here I can say print, let's say you can't drive a car. And then if you run this, you can see since age is is not greater than 18, it won't execute this, and then there's no further if statement, so it's just going to execute this else statement. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to go ahead. So, but what if you are between like 15.5 to 18? So under California law, I think as long as you are as long as you are like older than 15.5 years old, you actually can get a lesson with certain permission. So in here, we're gonna go ahead and add elif. So spell ELIF means else if. It's a shorthand notation for else if. And in here, we're gonna say else if. Let's put a condition here, and I can say if age is greater than or equal to 15.5. We're gonna say greater than or equal to here, and then in here I can say print. You can drive a car with parental permission, and then you cannot drive a car. And then if you run this, now you can see you can't drive a car because 15 is not greater than 18 nor greater than 15.5. But if I change it to 16, what we see instead is you can drive a car with parent permission, or if I change it to 19, and you can see you can drive a car without parental permission. So that's the basic of conditional statements. So does anybody have any questions with that? No questions? All right. Let me double check the chat message. Okay, I guess I will answer a few questions there. So, because I forgot to answer. So I didn't understand the assignment. So feel free to just email me and I will try to respond to everybody. And then Python is the most difficult language. For my perspective, it's not. If you heard of a programming language called C, you can try that out. I promise you it's harder than Python. Yeah. And then mine doesn't work again. What doesn't work again? Okay. If you could elaborate on that. Okay. So ages 19. So make sure you indent it correctly. Did you see any error, Kate? Yes, it's a syntax error. That's what I expected. Because notice that Python's not like behave nicely as JavaScript on like the style wise. So you must format exactly like this, including this tab. And then you need to make sure that if, elif, and else are on the same line, not the same line, but same alignment. And then these inside of the if state. So, and then you need to make sure you indent for every statement that is inside of an if statement. Basically, make sure you have like correct indentation set up. And then I can see there, so something like this. And you should backspace your else space there. So there's some space before else, so try to remove that, and that should work. All right, no problem. Okay, so this is the ideas of conditional statements. Please tell me if I'm going a little bit too fast, because I'm going to assume everybody learned JavaScript, because I talk about JavaScript, and then these are just like how to transfer them into Python. Now let's use another example. Let's go ahead and use this for loop. And then let's actually talk about while loop first. So now let's go ahead and introduce the idea of loop. Basically, it's executing a set of instruction or a set of code for a given amount of time. So for example, let me go and create a while loop. So my goal here is just to print out a number from 0 to 4. So print out number from 0 to 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, basically. So what I can do here is first I need to create a iterator. So the number itself, let me just name it to number. So it's probably going to be easier to understand. So num. Is there an easy way to make comments for every line? Oops. Do you mean a keyboard shortcut, Andrew? There is a keyboard shortcut, so you can just press some key, and then you don't have to like type it redundantly. So are you using PC or MacBook? There are some common questions, so I'm gonna answer PC. I'm actually not sure how to do it on PC. You should go to like the website or just Google it, like Visual Studio Code, comment, shortcut, PC. But if you're using MacBook, it's command, I forgot, I just literally forgot about it. I think it's command K, command C for MacBook. And then I'm not sure about PC, sorry about that. You could take a look of Google for, and then they should give you some like response how to do it. All right, so num is the current number. And then what I can do now is start a while loop. So I want to keep printing number from 0 to 4, right? So in here, what I can do now is something like this. So I can type while, and then parenthesis, and instead of parenthesis, actually no, why do you keep typing parenthesis? You don't need parenthesis. So while in here, what you can type is a condition that you want to be able to like, so like a condition. So similar to conditional statement, this is a condition that basically says if the condition is no longer true, then just break out of this loop and don't execute this loop again, basically. So in here, what we can say is while, and then I can say I less than 5, because I want to print out every number that is between 0 and 4, right? 0 and 4, and 0 and 4, and then what we can do. So by the way, I'm writing pass. I'm writing a pass here. So what is a pass basically means literally, because like if you see something like this, it's going to give a syntax error. If you want to make a statement that is empty, like an empty loop, you can type pass here. Literally means this is just like a placeholder or something. Basically. Yeah. Okay. So now let's go ahead and start to add some content inside of this while loop. And then in here, I can say something like print out num. Basically just print out the current number. And then what I want to do is actually go ahead and add number each time. So after I print out the number, I want to add the number. So exactly, I want to add 1. So I plus equals to 1. And then you can see we got a number. And then you can see we now, if we say I plus equals to 1, and then now you can see what that means is basically is change 1 by whatever value is instead of 1 plus 1. So it's basically is I equals to I plus 1. So whatever value is I plus 1, and then save it into I. Shorthand notation, I plus equals to 1. There's no I plus plus in Python, unfortunately. And then if you take a look, oops, it's not I, it's num. Sorry about that. While num. And then let's see. And then you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 get print out. So does anyone has any question with while loop?
Mine has like a bunch of zeros behind it.
Oh, a bunch of 0 behind it? Are you sure this is a number 0? It's not like not like this, but this. Is it like a number 0, like an integer without quotation marks?
Oh, it works now. I just needed to like reload. It was like something from the past.
All right. Vera, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Can you post the code in chat?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Well, no problem. But yeah, so just in case you guys, some of you guys are new, so if you need the code, feel free. I know it's even hard to get the code since I'm not using Reply anymore, but just remind me, I will post the code into a chat. Since I sometimes forgot about it. But this is the basic of while loop. So I just remember something that is pretty weird in Python. That is a little bit weird. So before I talk about for loop, I want to go back to conditional statements just a bit. So suppose we have something like this. If so let's give a var, let's give a variable, and then here name, let me just say, let's see which name I'm going to choose this time, Andrew. I'm just going to type the name is Andrew, and in here I want to say if name equals to Andrew, and then print out Andrew. Right, so now you can see Andrew gets print out, right? Because the name is Andrew. But if I say name is, if I just give a number is 0, and then if I say number is equal to 0, whoops, this prints out. see. Okay, well, that's a little bit weird. I think because there, like, sometime when I using Python, well, that's weird. Okay, forget about that. But sometimes when I using Python is when I try to compare to integer, it actually didn't give an equal. So like num equals equal to 0, it's not equals. Probably I can do something like this: num1 equals 0, num2 equals 0 as well. And then if I want to compare num1, num2, and then you can say otherwise print hi, and then okay, sometimes that's weird. I don't know how Python works out, but sometimes like when I try to compare two integer together, it's not like print out like actual. It didn't like pass the if statement. So it's like if 0 equals equal to 0, do something else, do something. It did the else part. Sometimes that's weird when I'm writing some Python program, but looks like it behaved nicely right now. What's a link? What do you mean by what's a link?
I don't know how to get into Python. I don't have it.
Just use repl instead. Just go to repo.it. repl.it. Basically, just go to there and just create a new repo instead, basically. All right, so that's the while loop part. And now I want to talk about different statements in here. So notice that we actually have a 3 main part within this while loop. So first part is this. This is called initialization statement. We usually need to store a variable that's as an iterator or something. And it's basically tell us which number are we on. And then we have this num less than 5 thing, which is the condition statement. And then basically this checks when the loop should end. And then finally, this is the incrementation statement or decrementation statement, depending on what you want to do. And this basically says what do you want to do after this loop get executed or something. But after the loop get executed, basically, so you can see I want to just basically add 1 to the end. If I'm missing any of these statements, this loop won't work, where it's going to be a if-in loop. So if-in loop is a scary thing that we need to worry about. Now let's talk about for loop, which is a way to actually compact. So for loop is a little bit weird in Python. For loop is a little bit weird. Instead I write something like this, let I equals 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. We don't do that in Python. We don't do that. Instead, we did something like this for I in range of 5. We do something like this. And then here, I can say something like print out I. And then if I type something like this, you can see it works. So we're going to use for I in range of 5. So we're using the range function here. Basically, you can imagine like Python doesn't have like a way to actually, but we have something like this. So you can still find these 3 parts. These 3 parts are essential to creating a loop. So you can see I as initialization statement is basically a variable that's an iterator variable that we are keeping track of. Then you can see we're using the in keyword, and then this together is basically it's both like condition and incrementation. So it handled condition and incrementation using this range function, and then you can see range function actually give us a list. And then we're going to take a look at that in just a little bit when we talk about list. And then you can see it basically says loops through from 0 to 4 and then do something with it. What do you want to do? Well, I want to print out 0 through 4 each number. So I can say I, just like print out I. So it's going to say print out 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Does anyone have any question with for loop? With for loop, does anyone have any questions? Okay, so if nobody have any question for now, so we'll take a break really quick. So it's a 10 minutes break. We'll go ahead and resume the class back in 4:30. We'll keep talking about Python. So that's the first part of this class. And yeah, so now it's 10 minutes break basically.
My code keeps on infinitely printing 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Infinitely printing?
Yeah.
Okay, do you mind if you share your screen? Just interrupt me.
You have to stop sharing for me to share.
Oh, have to? Okay, so you can like interrupt me to share. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. Let's
And
see.
like it's infinitely sharing. Like infinitely.
Okay. So do you mind if you press the stop button right now?
Stop.
Yeah, because I'm afraid probably gonna burn a computer. It's kind of probably gonna break a computer or something. But let's see. You can see the indentation matters. So what's happening here is you are wrapping the for loop within the while loop within the if statement. So indentation matters, and then you need to make sure that you are on indent. Yeah, and then now if you try again to print that out. Yeah. So how about this? Try to
Yes. I
now
will.
print. Yeah. So that's just something you need to remember with Python. Indentation does matter. Python.
Also, else if doesn't work for me. It says I can't use else if.
If. Okay, you need to put if before else, basically. That's what it's trying to tell you. You cannot put else under else because it's going to assume everything is finished after else, because like else it should be the final statement, optionally the final statement for your if condition.
Okay. It's what?
Can I post a code?
Yeah.
Indentation error. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll post the code real quick. So where was it privately? Post all the code. All right. Just a sec. Some of the code is commented else, you need to uncomment it. Basically, remove the hash mark. Yeah.
Oh,
Is the break over?
In 30 seconds. That's what my clock told me. It's like 36 seconds right now. Yeah, I know. All right. All right, so welcome back. All right, so can you guys hear me? I hope you guys can. Yep. Okay, so now we're gonna pick up where we left off. So we talked about loops and we talked about conditional statements, variable types, and print statements. How could you print that stuff onto the console using print? And then pick up where we left off was, actually I want to briefly talk about conditional statements again after I did a little bit of research. So there's actually even a simpler way to a comparison in Python. We can actually literally say if, let's just say if age equals 18. And then here we can say if age is 18, then here we can say print out 18. And then you can see now the 18 get printed out, basically. Essentially what it is, but we're using age, something like, so that if we are using is, then that some error may be occur. Okay, so it's Python 3. Then some error might occur because how you handle it, but try to use this equal instead, because equal will be guaranteed that it will work all the time. But if it's another keyword that you can use for comparison, literally check if an element is another element or not. All right. So this is conditional statements, and now let's talk about different data structures. So or like other different types of variables. So first, let's go and talk about list. So what is a list? Well, list is a collection of values. So you can put whatever you want into a list. So for example, I can create a list with my books. In here, I can say books. And then here I can say Harry Potter. Say I don't read book a lot. Harry Potter. What else do you have? The Hunger Games. And in here, can also add, let's say, the Lord of the Rings. All right. So these are the three books that I have. Obviously, I have more books than that, but I just list 3 books here. So let's go and talk about how could you add a new book to this list. How about this? So I can add a new book by just typing books.push. Actually, no, book.append. So append, and then you can see it said append object to the end of the list. Basically, if I just remove this, the Lord of the Rings, and then if I move it down here, you can see it's going to append this into the books list, essentially. And then you can see there should be a new element there. And then this is about like how could we add elements to a list. Although you can see the different value in a list is separated, separated by a comma, essentially separated by comma. And if we print out books here, and then you can see we have Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and The Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's essentially what it is. So you can see you've got different list here. All right, so this is the idea of list. And then, but how do we remove an element in a list? We can remove an element in a list pretty easily, actually. So we can just type books.remove, and then we remove with the value. And then you can see you only remove the first value. So if I want to say, okay, I don't want to have Harry Potter anymore. And then if I say that, and then you can see we get the Hunger Games and the Lord of the Rings. These are the books as we currently have. Essentially, you can see that represents the array format. Again, to create an array, you're going to use square bracket, and then it says square bracket, you can put whatever you want, but separate by comma for different values. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please just like yell aloud. So because I'm not going to check chat really often enough, unless Zoom reminded me. So if you have any problem, feel free to just interrupt me. That's fine.
Can you paste the code?
Yes, I can.
I shouted.
Okay. So so this is books, essentially, and now so this is a list, right? This is a list. So now let's go ahead and do more stuff. And then now let's go ahead and talk about how can we get a specific elements from a list. So it turns out that a list is similar to array in JavaScript. It's grouped by the index number or position number. Index number. So for example, Harry Potter is position number 0. The Hunger Games is position number 1. And the Lord of the Ring is position number 2. So if we have an array like this, so 1, 2, 3, the index number is actually 0, 0, 1, 2. The reason because is the index number is always it's the index number is starting with 0, so that's why computer counts from 0. So it's like 0, 1, 2, and then the value is 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, essentially. Okay, so that's the ideas of that's the ideas of how can we access by index number. So that is the index number itself, but how can we actually access a value? So you can access a value by just typing bracket. So here you can see this array is stored, or this list is stored in this variable. You can type square bracket, and instead of square bracket, just type an index number. For example, I want to know what is first by its index number, or the second by its position number. So now if you take a look, you can see we got the Lord of the Ring, because the Lord of the Ring got appended to here, but the Harry Potter get removed. So the Lord of the Ring is indeed the first index number or the second element. All right. So this is list. Anybody have any question with that?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So now it turns out that we can actually loop through a list quite easily as well. So to loop through a list, what if we want to print out like everything in the list? Well, in here we can actually just say for book in books. Essentially, so book is a variable that is basically like whatever the current element is, and the books is this this list. And then I got a books, I've got a list, and then basically now the book, every time at each iteration, it's going to be the new book here. So like Harry Potter, the Hunger Game, and the Lord of the Rings, and then it's essentially the book each time going to be a different book, but it's essentially going to loop through all the books, all the book within this books list. And to perform most simplest operation, I can just say print out book. And then if you take a look, Python 3 intro.py, you can see got the Hunger Game and the Lord of the Rings print out. So this is how we can loop through a list in Python quite easily. Does anyone have any question regarding to that as well? No. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so now we talk about how to loop through a list by its book, how to loop through a list. Now let's go ahead and talk about another data structure. It's called a dictionary. So does anyone have any guesses? So a dictionary is something like this. A, B. Whoops. So does anyone have any guesses why this thing is called dictionary? Why this is called dictionary? So this data type I'm showing right here is a dictionary. Does anyone have any guesses why it's called dictionary? Okay, so it's fine. So how about this? Does anyone could anyone tell me what are the two most important things that a dictionary must exist in order to let it means dictionary? The two most important things that a dictionary must have in order to make it actual dictionary. Okay, so it turns out that we need these two things to make it a real dictionary. We need word and definition. These are the two most important things to make a dictionary, basically. To make a dictionary. And then in this case, you can imagine as, again, it's separated by comma, separated by comma for different like key and value pairs. So this is called a key and value pairs. So separate key and value is a colon. But on the left-hand side of the colon is a key, on the right-hand side of the colon is a value, or the definition. So this is why it's called a dictionary. So in this case, a key means the word that referring to a definition with the value. So in this case, you want to do something like that. If I want to do something like this, you can just call this dictionary. Call this a dictionary, and then here I could just say something like this. So I can say dictionary print out dictionary bracket A. So that means what's it going to do is it's going to try to find a key which is A, and then you can use the bracket notation, and inside the bracket notation we provide the key value. A key, and then let me comment these out, and you can see we see B here. So B is basically it's trying to find what value is referring. So it's trying to find what value is associated with the word A, and then you can see it's find it is B. All right. So does anyone have any questions so far? No questions. All right. So it turns out that you can add. Yes. Code. You mean put code in the chat?
Yes.
All right. So these are the code. Excuse me. Okay. So yeah, I just put the code. You can take a look if you want to. All right. So it turns out it's pretty easy that we can also like create a new key and value pair as well. So basically, what you need to do is basically like put a dictionary here and then bracket notation. In here, you can provide whatever the valid key is, and then if it's the existing key, I believe it's going to overwrite the existing value. But if it's a new key, it's going to add this to this dictionary. And here I can just say E, and then it's going to equals to F. And then if you try to print out dictionary again, you can see A is associated with B, C is associated with B is associated with A, D is associated with C, and the F is indeed associated with E. All right. Okay. So this is essentially a dictionary. and then how we can add a new value to a dictionary. Key and value pair. All right, so does anyone has any question on that as well? Okay, so that's the fundamental ideas of key and value pairs. And then a dictionary is used for we want to store like a pair when we're referring to each other, and then basically, and a list is basically storing the value that is a list is basically storing value that is like didn't associate with each other, but and didn't have any category, like categorized stuff like that. So that's the difference between list and dictionary. Okay, so there also we actually have other two most commonly used as well. I'm actually going to talk about them as well. So let's see. So one is called this. So here we can say something like this. We're gonna create a set. Does anyone know what is set for? What is a set for? Or if you know Python and heard of set before, what's the difference between set and list? Does anyone know the difference between set, and list in Python? Okay, so essentially, what is the set? Well, let me actually show you here instead. So they're just like minor stuff. Okay, so in here, let's go start an IPython terminal here. Okay, so in here, what I want to do is something like this. So let me go and create a new array or a new list, and then with only these three values, 1, 2, 3, right? It turns out that I can actually add a redundant value to it. So I can say array.append 1, and then if I say print out because you got 1, 2, 3, 1. But what if you only want the unique value? You want to get rid of it. You want to get rid of like the redundancy or the duplicates. Well, that's where the set come into place. So you can write a set like this. So s equals to set with a parenthesis. And then in here, what we can say is if we say set, I think we use the add. Yeah. So s the add, we can add 1. And then if we print out s, you can see got 1 there, But if I say s dot add 1 as well, and then print out s, you can see we still only see 1, 1 instead of 2 because set only stores unique value instead of like list storing all kinds of like duplicates. All right. So that's the difference between sets and list. Basically, list can store the value that is redundant, but set can only store the value that is not duplicate. So it's used for storing some like unique value essentially. So what if you want to turn the array that we just created, the R array or list, to R to the list to a set. So in a case that I still want to rename it to a list, but I want to get rid of the duplicates values. How can I do that? Well, it turns out that we can do that pretty easily as well. So first we need to do is actually change this list to a set, right? So we can change a list to a set by using set. And instead of set, we can put the list name with an iterable type name there. And then if we do this, you can see now I have this weird dictionary looks like thing, but without a value, because it's a 1, 2, 3 here. But now I'm going to change it back to list. So I can just say list of the set of R. And then you can see now we successfully get rid of the duplicate value 1 in this case, and then you can see only see 1, 1 here, but the type is still remain as a list. Yeah, as a list. So does anyone have any questions between set, list, how to transfer each to each other?
Can you post this code in the chat?
Oh shoot, it's actually pretty hard for me to copy and paste the code in this case. All right, sure. So I will try my best. Let's see. It's a little bit it's going to be a little bit weird because I need to. Let's see, where's my chat? Here it is. All right. Yeah, so okay, it's a little bit complicated, you know what? So just like remove all these like in 3, in 4, remove this, just get the actual code itself, basically. I don't know, sometimes it does that because I'm using IPython instead of like a real Python script. I'm probably gonna use a real Python script this time. All right, so this is about set. So does anyone know the final like kind of like a data structure for Python? So we talk about list, type, list, dictionary, set. Does anyone? We actually have one more like data type like these. Does anyone know which one? Start with a T. Okay, so it's fine. This is like a weird one. It's not like that commonly used. It's called a tuple or tuple. It's essentially like it's essentially more like a XY coordinate. So if you guys remember the XY coordinates, which I'm pretty sure you guys do, so you can imagine so we have something like this, right? And then let's just say we'll have some random dot here, and then this dot can represent, let's just say 2, 3, and then you probably ask why we do math now, but this is an example of a tuple. So basically a tuple is grouped by parentheses, and then they can have like whatever, how many elements you want to. You don't need to just have 2, or you can even have 1, or you can have 2 or more, one or more basically. And then tuple is essentially a way that still you can access by index number, but it's like a way like to transfer, another way to like exchange data, for example. I don't think there's anything special with tuple, but like you can, it's commonly used with like this longitude and latitude system. That's a common example for a tuple. So this is a tuple, you can imagine. And it's not really special, so I'm not going to do anything about it actually. So that is about all the data types. And now let me go ahead and introduce you to the ideas of functions before we spend last 30 minutes on the class or the object-oriented programming in Python. So let's go ahead and now talk about functions. So does anyone know how to create a function in Python?
You use define or def.
Yes, I use type def, and then here you can see there's code snippet here already, and you can see I have different class I can create, but you can see I can create something like function name basically. So I can just say let's just say hello, and then you can type with a parenthesis and then colon represent everything under it. And in here, what I want to do is I just want to print out hello world, basically. So I'm going to say something like this, print hello world. And then if you run this, whoops. Oops, okay. Let's see. Okay. So in here, what we can say is something like this. So, so if you run Python 3 intro.py, you can see nothing get printed out, despite I said print here. The reason the hello function doesn't work is because It's because it turns out that we cannot actually like create a we didn't actually call the function. So after we define a function, we actually need to call a function. So a function is just a way to store like a chunk of the code and then to use it later in different places. And then for example, I can say hello here. And then if I say Python 3 intro.py, and I can say hello world here. Because now I called the function. So does anyone have any questions so far with functions? Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the ideas of arguments. So for example, now what I want to do is not just print out hello world anymore. I want to specifically print out like hello David, hello Jeffrey, hello Andrew, hello me, or something, whatever the name is, basically. So it turns out that it's pretty easy, and then we can use an argument or a parameter. And then in here, what we can say is we can take a parameter called name. Essentially, this just means we're going to create a variable, and this variable, what's this variable going to be equals to? What the user actually going to provide this value inside of the parenthesis as well. So the user need to provide something, basically. And then name, so what's name? Well, I could just say like my name. And then right here, I can just say print out. So here is a feature that I want to use. It's called f-string. Basically what is an f-string is you can actually embed Python variable within a string. Basically type f before the either double quotation mark or single quotation mark, and then type curly braces where you want to embed Python. And then here I can just type name here. And then now if I run again, you guys can see hello Boyuan here. If I start to mess it around, so like Andrew, and then Jeffrey, and then if I provide nothing, you can just see it said hello. But if I provide nothing and provide a string with provide an empty string with provide nothing, is absolutely different. So if I just remove these two quotation marks, because they got an error, it's a type error. It says hello missing one required positional argument called name. So basically what that means is you must provide this name argument, otherwise this function is going to have an issue with it. So how can I make it an optional argument? Well, I can make it so thus if the user didn't provide a name, I could just print out hello world instead. When here I can just type name equals to none. And then in here I can do something like this. So now this argument is optional, means you don't have to provide this, but if you do provide this, you will see this name here. So I can say if name is not none, do this. Otherwise, because I print out hello world. And now name is an optional argument. And now you can see if I say something like this, and then you can see that hello world get run because I didn't provide an argument with it. But if I do, let's run again, you can see now it's print out the user's provided value instead. All right. So does anyone have any question with that, with all the function stuff? All right. So last thing I want to talk about with function is how to return a value. So what if I want to see what is actually like, what if I want to do something like this? So I want to print out the output of this function. So it turns out that it's none. That means it didn't return anything. So you could make a return value here. And then in this case, I didn't find a need to return, so I can just return 0. Usually means it succeeded. So succeeded was executed code. And now you can see if I print that out, the output for this function is equal to 0. So you can imagine that if you try something like this, like a num equals to this function, what the num going to equals to is the return value with the output for this function, or just 0 in this case. That's the return statements. And I'm going to copy this into the chat, essentially. All right. Okay, so does anyone have any questions so far? No. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the final topic for today. And then this is going to be quite complicated. And then this is called a class. Have anyone heard of class in Python before or used it before? Okay, so now we're going to talk about class, which apparently nobody knows, which is pretty good because you guys can learn something new from it. And then here what I can type is something like this. So what is a class? Well, since Python is a object-oriented programming, everything in Python, just like in JavaScript, can be represented as an object or as a class. So as a specific type. So it turns out now we can create our own type as well. So let's take a look. Let's go ahead and type class. So that's how could you create a class in Python. And then in here, what I want to say is the class name. So what's your object name? So I'm just gonna call this fruit. Let's actually call this food, actually, to make it even more general. Food. So we can just say class food pass. Okay. And then here is where we'll go out and put some properties and values to it. All right. So for example, I can just say something like this. Let's go ahead and start with try to hard code a value. And I can hard code value. Let's say something like this. The name of the food is going to be a pizza. It's going to be pizza. And then here, I can create, so now in here, let's go ahead and create a new class. Let's go ahead and truly create a new class. And then, so actually create a new instance of this class to be more specific. And then in here we can say, name f equals to food. All right. And then here I can just say print f dot name. And then if I run this, you can see we print out the pizza. So it turned out that we can access the variable directly by just typing the class, the variable that we stored in, and then using dot notation to get the variable name that's what we're trying to get. So that's create a class. But to make it even more fun, what we want to do now is not just hard coded value, is how can is actually like be able to like a user provide a value when they're creating new food, let's say that. And then so here I could say pizza. I could say pizza here. And then here what I will do is actually I will write a def, and then I will start writing by a dunder method. So what is a dunder method? Well, it's usually written in this way. So 2 underscore init 2 underscore. All right. And then here we can write a parenthesis. And then usually always taking self. Actually, yeah, always taking self. And then with some like arguments we are going to accept. So we can say name, price, and then yeah, something like that. But these are good for now. So you can see basically what happened is we have an init method. So init method basically means initialization. Is this code going to execute the first whenever you initialize a new instance with it, whenever you create a new instance with this food class. And then you can provide some optional arguments in here. So you can see I require name and price here. So in here, I can just say pizza. And then 1.5. That's way too cheap. Let's just say slice of pizza. And then in here, what I can do is actually I can use self. So notice that how I actually provide another variable called self. So if you remember from JavaScript, we use this actually. We use this. So, but this and self are referring to the same thing. It referred to itself. So the new instance that you just created. So, and the reason we're using self is you can imagine a self is the dictionary, and then once including self, you can access a variable anywhere within your program. Because basically you cannot access name if you have different method essentially. But we say something like this, so we can say define init self name price, and then in here we could say name equals to we can say something like this. This self.name equals to name, self.price equals to price. Basically, you can imagine a self is a dictionary, and then we're assigning different values to a dictionary. So self.name means we are assigning create a new key called name, and its corresponding value should be whatever the user provided name is, and the price as well. All right, so that's the init method. And then now let's type pizza instead. You can see we still can get the name by using the down notation anyway. All right, so this is pretty fun. Again, we're using the downer method or magic method. That this is a built-in method. You can type it by using 2 underscore at each side, and within these 2 underscore is called init, I-N-I-T, to initialize a new class with its corresponding argument. All right, and then what we can do is let's start to create some different method. So some different method I want to create is probably like how excuse me, so like how much would it cost to buy multiple serving of it? How much would it cost? So we can say something like this, cost. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, so in here we can define a property called cost. Within this, was first we obviously need to take in self as a parameter, and then in here we can just type. We need the user to provide another value here. Is how many number of serving they want, and then it turned out that we can do it pretty easily. We can just return this dot price multiplied by the number of serving they want to buy. That's essentially the cost of it. And then let's go ahead and type pizza.cost. And then I need the num. So how many number do I want? Well, let's just say I want to buy 2 slices of pizza. And then let's take a look. Oops, so there. And now you can see the price is 3.0 because 2 multiplied by 1.5 is indeed 3. Okay, so does anyone have any questions so far with class? I hope you guys can ask some questions so I make sure that you guys can actually understand what I'm talking about. But do you guys have any questions?
No.
No, okay. So I guess we'll move on to like keep talking about like different topic within like class. So now you guys will create our own method. So, but what I'm wondering the most is actually what does the pizza itself look like? So what does the pizza itself look like? So what does the pizza object look like? So we can say print out pizza. And in here, if I type enter, I'm like, whoa, there's so many stuff happening here. and it's so ugly. So in case you're wondering what is this is the module where it's defined in, the main module, and then this is the object name. And then this is the, does anyone know what is this chunk of number is? Or does anyone want to guess what these this number represents? Okay, so this is, if you're learning C or C++ or Java, this means pointers. Have anyone heard of pointer before? So it's essentially a memory address, basically. It's one of the complicated topic that you are never going to use in Python. Like, you're barely going to use it for normal Python development, but you're going to use it so much when you're doing about C, C++, maybe Java, etc. So how can I make it a little bit more beautiful? So it turns out that I can actually add a dunder method here, another magic method, and then that's called stir. Actually, it's called wrapper. So what is a wrapper? Wrapper means represent. So what should happen when we represent this? Well, how should we represent this? Well, in here, we can say something like this. Return, I want to return an F string. So I'm going to say something like food. And then here I want to say something like pizza. Let's self.name. And then self.price. And then you can see, now if you're trying to run that again, it's much more beautiful. You can see you have food and pizza, 1.5 here. So that's another dunder method. So does anyone have any questions with that?
No.
No. All right. Okay. So so now I want to talk about the ideas of the final ideas for today, actually. So the class is we have 15 more minutes, and I want to yeah. So so in here we'll go ahead and talk about is the ideas of the inheritance. So basically, so what if you have so much pizza? So now let's assume that I live in Italy. So that's, I have so much pizza shop, and then I have so many pizza, and then I don't think, like, most of the food is pizza. So I don't think it's valuable for me to keep using food anymore. I want to create something that is more specific to pizza itself. So it turns out that what I can do now is I can say class pizza. I can start to create a new class called pizza. But in the parentheses, what I will do is I will actually inherit whatever is in here, basically, whatever is in the food. So we'll go ahead in the parentheses, I will type food. And then again, I will type food. All right. So basically what that means is, okay, so what's happening is Python going to understand, okay, so this person wants to create a new class called pizza that is based on this food. We're going to inherit everything from it. Basically. But I'm gonna inherit everything from it. But probably he's going to do a little bit of customization, essentially. And then just in case you're wondering, this is a single class inheritance. All right. So here what we can talk. So now what I can do is I actually need to go ahead and now recall that to do that, we actually need to like super, right? We need to actually like using some function like this to actually like init value with like this food class first. So in here I can just say like food dot init, I think, or something like this. And then here what we can do is basically we're initialize with with the food class, what the classes we're inheriting. And then here we can actually, let's go and create a init class first. So user can provide their custom arguments. So self name price. And in this case, I'm gonna provide one more argument called toppings. And then food.init. And then in here, what I can say is I can put the name and price here. So basically we want to first initialize with the food first, food class. Then we can go ahead and say self.toppings equals toppings. So toppings, which in this case, I'm gonna assume it's an array or a list. And in here, I could just say P for pizza. And then pizza here. So we expected, let's see. So we expect a name, a price, a topping as well. Let's just say a pineapple, sausage, and lemon, mushroom, let's say, just to make it a little bit more normal. And then in here, if you print out P, oops, P for pizza. So, oops, price. Okay, I need to actually provide a self here, I think. And then you can see this is now the class called pizza. And then it does inherit everything from it. So if I say something like p.cost, and then I can put a number there. So I can say, what are the 3 slices of pizza cost? You can see it's indeed cost for about $5, basically. And then for the one final thing we will do is we will talk about modules, different modules. So this time, if you're in Replit where you are using like a local machine, it's going to be different. So from next class, we will start to install our first dependency that's what we're going to use. And then, but we actually have if you install Python correctly, you should have pip or Python package install Python or pip install package installed. It's basically a way to manage what package installed in Python. This turns out that there is a lot of modules that you can use in Python, lots of different modules, and start with next class on Wednesday. So we'll go ahead and install our first module. And in here, which you make sure you need to have pip installed. But if you're using Replit, you don't need to have that. You are using Replit, you don't need to have that. You just need to type import statements. So to import a module, usually it's at the top. And then, for example, if you want to import a module can random, basically just generate some randomness stuff, do something with random, you can just type import random here. And random is a built-in module, so you don't need to actually install it. Since this is a built-in, it's come with Python once you install it. But if you're using other modules such as Wednesday, Flask, you need to install this using pip. And then in here, what we can type is something like, so in here we'll go create our final function. It's called random topping. Basically, it's going to give you some random topping that a user provided. And then how can I do that? Well, it turns out it's pretty easy. We can just use random.choice. So you can imagine random as another class, and then .choice is a function or a method within that class, and then that's just going to basically return a randomly chosen quote-unquote element in an iterable type, so in an array or in a list. And then here we say self.toppings. And then if we say something like random topping, and then if we run this, oops, I forgot to add parentheses at the end. And now you can see it's a mushroom this time, mushroom. Why is it always mushroom? And then you can see sausage, pineapple, mushroom, pineapple, etc. So this is about class in Python. So this is really brief covering about Python. Python is really a popular language since then, since it started to get invented. It started to get really popular, and then it's going to go to like different areas as well. If you're interested into machine learning, or data science, Python is also a great way to get started web development also as well, and different way as well. I just post the code at the top. So the class is almost over. I'm just going to do a quick brief recap here. So talk about variables, different types. Also talk about conditional statements, for loops, while loops, list, dictionary, tuples, and set, as well as function, return, and mainly we focused on class or object-oriented programming in Python. Okay, so we don't have homework for today. So if you want to, you can just create some random Python script if you want to. But does anyone have any question regarding to what you will learn, or any question regarding to this class? Feel free to ask now. For like we have like a short Q&A session. So if you have any question, feel free to ask. Okay, so talk about the plan on Wednesday then. So basically what you will have opportunity, to create your first fully fledged web application. So we talked about HTML and CSS in the past, but now we're going to take a look how can we actually use HTML and CSS with Python as backend programming language. And then we're also going to talk about like database interaction. And then back in next Monday, we'll talk about how could you create a URL shortener? Like how could you shorten the URL? If you ever use a tool called bit.ly, that will try to mimic there. And we're also going to learn Heroku and GitHub along the way. So basically, so you guys know how can we deploy these. And then we're eventually going to talk about Socket. So like the live chatting app that I just shared. If you guys are interested, we'll build that as well. And then finally, we'll learn another final framework called Django. And then for the last week, we'll talk about security. So this is almost like the midway through. Is it midway yet? I don't know, actually. But yeah, that's a brief plan.
When does this class end, the last class?
What?
When is the last class?
I think it's beginning of the September or something. I have to double check on that.
Maybe it's September 1st, at the beginning of school?
Probably, or maybe, yeah, probably somewhere around that, I think. Yeah. But yeah, so that's about it for this class. So thanks for attending. If you don't have any further questions, feel free to leave the meeting now. Thanks for attending, and have a nice day. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for teaching us. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for attending. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, Ethan. Bye, Kessler. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Everybody. Bye. Bye.